Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 17 of Building Jam, and this is a special one. Every week we're sharing internal demos and things that we're working on, the real experiences building Jam. And this week we had a really cool internal demo we're talking about. Basically, we're testing and playing around with the local Gemini Nano, and we're really excited for what it means for the future of building for the web, and particularly what it means for making bug reporting better. So with that, let's jump into it.
Oskar, what did Chrome add in their most recent version?
So in the most recent version, Google decided to include local language model Gemini Nano built into the web browser, which means that we developers can build even better stuff on the front-end side with very little latency to get some outputs from the language model, which means you can do something like translation on the fly. So you can type things in English and get the result in Chinese or in Polish.
So basically, there's all these like AI cloud wars, like which model will you use and which cloud will you use it on? And you're saying actually the browser is where the model is going to be anyway. And so it's not like in the future we're going to make API calls to OpenAI. In the future, there will just be a model already pre-installed in the browser, and then we'll just use that basically.
I think so.
Yeah.
But
And like
wouldn't
this is
it
a
would still...
huge advantage, right? Like from a Google's perspective, it's analogous to Apple's controlling the iPhone distribution, right? So Apple controls the iPhone distribution, so it has a huge leverage on the default search engine, right? So it charges like literally $20 billion for Google to be the default search engine. And like it is a similar thing with Chrome, right? It owns essentially the browser market. So it because it's able to like distribute this on device and get to be able to experiment with this, right? Because like if you can think of Arc would be able to experiment with this, but the way that Chrome has this advantage of like experimenting and pushing it forward, and like if they really wanted, they could fast track this and get it to the end of the year and into GA or something like that.
How would with this local version, can you do any like extra training or RAG, or is that the benefit of cloud? Or like how do you think that will what do you think happens there?
Right now it's in a very early preview, so it's like a couple of things which they limited is, for instance, the context window. So you cannot utilize the huge context window which Gemini provides by default. So right now it's cut to like 1,000 tokens, I believe, which is like very little in compared to what the online version provides, because they want to first make it available and quick. But I don't think there is a reason why it shouldn't be possible to fine tune these models. It will take some time though. I believe it will be more something like you send the request to fine tune the model and maybe then download it again for your particular task. But yeah, I think that's the possibility too.
Yeah,
Where
like
do you think
they're
this
shaping up the APIs right now, and so the way that I see they're doing this is like they're incrementally expanding the APIs they're experimenting with. So the first was summarization, and then the second one, if I'm not mistaken, is translation. So like it's trying to understand what are the capabilities that this small model can provide, can support, and then shaping that up into web APIs.
Oh, wait, that's so interesting. Wait, are you saying, am I understanding you right? Are you saying in the future, this might not look like there's an LLM locally that you can query? In the future, this will just look like a new set of web APIs that are powered by this LLM. So the same way that you can grab like, I don't know, window dot whatever utility function,
Yeah,
there will be window dot utility functions that are AI powered. So anyone building a video service in browser will be like window dot add transcripts or something. And that will be powered by the LLM, but it'll be sort of productized into APIs on top. Is that what you're saying?
exactly. That
Exactly.
that's
Whoa.
literally window like global this window dot AI or something like that dot summarize, right? The APIs are really under this AI namespace, and
Oh my
that's
God.
how
It's
they
gonna be
are.
so fun to write code. Like, that's so cool.
I can show it to you now.
It is
Yeah,
really cool.
we would love to
Yeah.
see.
Ooh, awesome.
Uh, Yeah, so I will share my window. When I tried to play around with it, only the prompting was available, and I created like a. So here I have the beta version of our extension, and here is our test app. So I wanted to give it a try if I could generate like steps to reproduce out of our out of the actions which happen on the page. Let me actually reopen. So let's say we have a pizza which we would like to order. It's a grape jam pizza. Let's set it to 16, and then we hit that button. We have a test page where we just return the error message. And now I can just go and grab an instant replay. And let me check if I have my team with some integration installed. So I'm going to change to that, and then I'm going to use the linear. And do not mind the UI, it's like very rough. I'm engineer.
You're forgiven.
Click, and it generates the description.
Wow. I mean, to see it, it knew it was a problem submitting the order, and it could have it sort of an accurate title like that. It's pretty amazing.
I love I love that it says that this bug could uh, could incur the company $100,000. Not because the prompt of Hui's prompt trick.
That's right. So sometimes it
Thread-based
like
prompting.
hallucinates.
So one thing I wonder, like just looking at this, you have the steps to reproduce open. They're not correct,
They are not in this
and
case. Yeah,
so like how like the promise of this is so high. Like, wouldn't it be so cool if just
Mhm.
locally you get repro steps,
mm.
and it's instant. And you just like we don't have to call an API and it's all private and all the things. But like it doesn't. It's not good enough yet. Like, what has to happen? Is it on our side or is it on their side or is it both? Or
I think it's both. It's a mixture. Two things have to happen to improve on it. It's like the first thing is our own prompting. So I just started playing around with it, and we tried. We have to try different things. What else we can feed to the model to get better results. And another thing which could happen, because Gemini Nano is multimodal, it means that you can feed into large language model not only text but also media, which could be like a huge improvement if you think about it. And in that case, if they enable us developers to feed like screenshots or video files into this local language model, it means you don't have to transfer it all to the server and then to the model uh, to present it in the context for the language model. You could just do it all locally. So it would save a lot of time on just feeding it to the model locally and get a better result.
oh, I see. So, okay, one of the conversations we've been having over Slack is how much latency is a user willing to just sit through and wait to get a really accurate AI answer. And we're like, we've got these like great screen recordings. Sometimes users like talk through the bug. Like we've got so much data to send, but do users just want to quickly write a description and fire it off? Or do they want to wait for us to send all of that to an LLM in the cloud? It uploads, we wait for the LM to process it, we wait for the response. And so what you're saying is if the model can be compressed enough so that there's a large context window even locally, all of that could happen locally, and then you could have like highly accurate AI, like for our use case, without incurring all of that like bandwidth latency cost.
That's right. Yeah, that's my feeling about it.
And
Where
Yeah, that's
where
the
do you,
goal.
yeah, where do you think this all goes? Like as engineers,
What do you mean?
like kind of you're
Where?
seeing.
What is this?
Yeah, what is this? What does it mean for what developers will build? Like as a developer, like where's your brain going? And if you imagine sitting on the Google Web AI team, what do you think you're thinking about and like where are you taking this?
I think there are different time frames, right? So I think we're at the point right now where like these local models, so like Llama 3, was a huge advancement. Um, because it was a really large model, like comparatively to GPT-4o and like this private models. Um, so like I think what the end goal will look like is that there won't need to be any sort, and this is what people have said, is like there won't need to be any hassle to get good qualitative results depending on the task. So let's say I want a summary for this bug. This is the goal of the task. I just ask for it, and zero shot, I get a super high quality result. So I think that would be like the next milestone. And but the thing is that, and what the industry is kind of like shifting towards, from my perspective, is that that requires some sort of planning, right? So it needs to kind of like do what we do, right? So we get these results, but they're not quite accurate. So like it has to like validate and then provide more data, which is kind of like the take that Cursor has, right? So Cursor has like this. It's able to integrate a lot of context. You can upload docs. You can refer to different files. Um, so I think up until that point, it's in the burden of who's the consumers to provide this sort of like reasoning, right? Which is kind of like what again Cursor has been doing very successfully. So like I think that's one step. Like up until that point, where like we have low latency, super high quality, zero shot APIs, it's going to be a huge breakthrough, right? Because right now results are kind of like flaky, latency, it's also flaky. So that's the whole reliability aspect of things. It's kind of like needs to improve like orders of magnitude. So this can be, we can actually rely on this without having to, make it work with the way that these architectures are currently alike.
Am I understanding you correctly? You're basically saying for each like productized feature of an LLM, so whether it's like transcripts or summary or whatever it is, image generation, it's not linear progress. It's actually like a stepwise function because there's a quality bar at which users won't accept it and it makes their lives harder because it gives them bad results. And then suddenly we like just hit the mark where it is good enough, and then it's like, oh, now this new thing is possible. And so you're saying like it's sort of like nothing changes, nothing changes, nothing changes, and then at some point everything will change. Is that
I don't know. Like for example, Gemini 1.5 Pro with the 1 million context window, that was a step function, right? Because it enabled things that weren't possible before. Like you had to rely on RAG. Um, but you could argue that the context window can keep growing, and as it keeps growing, it's like incrementally increasing the size of potential products and use cases that it can support. So I'm not sure if there is like one huge breakthrough that will like change stuff, but like gradual incremental minor breakthroughs that compounded, like, oh, like this is really useful. Like the amount of work we'll have to do like will be an inverse function, right? As these breakthroughs are like compounding to one another, the amount of like reliance on RAG, reliance on weird prompt techniques, these will all decrease, likely. So I think that's how I look at it.
it'll be like the web API unbundling of LLMs.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to summarize it. Like, given that web APIs is like functionalities that are now enabled, right, by a particular set of breakthroughs. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
One thing that like I feel kind of excited about like seeing this is right now in like web accessibility, there's a lot of onus on every developer to use the best accessibility like technologies so that we all build accessible like the onus falls on the developer, but you can imagine a world in which summarization and transcription and translation and whatever, like speech to text and all of the above, is in the browser locally through these LLMs. And suddenly, like you can just build, and the page or the application can sort of adapt to the user. And I can imagine that being one of the ways that this changes, like the browser experience, I guess, for people who use the browser.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
I
great.
think
I mean,
that's
it's like, yeah, I feel like
okay.
I have a like an analogy in my head when I think about it. So imagine you have a car, and the engine of that car is a large language model.
Oh
So
no.
every single car company has a great engine, and that engine runs on a pretty like a good level for every company. So they have to figure out other things which they want to get some more attention to their car by doing more features around that engine. So you can think about like adding cup holders or maybe like electric windows to it. It makes a difference that you want to use that
Safety
uh,
features,
safety features,
Hmm.
for
right?
instance, the privacy features. Like
Yeah.
so everybody is like on the good level of engine, and they figure out a way to just take your attention and point it into other things which you can use within this
Yeah,
good engine.
that's a great way
So
to put it. I think most of the Facebook strategy to, or Meta strategy to like open source this is to actually do that, right? Because it's in their interest to like democratize this and like make it available so that it takes the leverage of like these companies that are built on top of these private models, right? So like if you can have Llama 3, why would you pay for OpenAI, right? That kind of stuff. So I think that makes a lot of
That's right.
sense. So like
so
essentially the compute will be even, right? And then each individual like product or offering will have its own um, mode to really get
so
into
so
it.
where does the differentiation come from then when the engine is the same?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, for instance, if you provide it in the browser context, which is available offline, and you can change, like Danny said, you can change how the actual experience of browsing the web changes. People are going to use it, and this is something what we see, right? So, for instance, Arc advertised these new features around like the AI, and now we are in the realm that these big companies are fighting each other, just provide more value to the users through these new APIs, which is only users benefit from it, right?
One thing that Ian, your question is really interesting of like suddenly this like there's going to be like a Cambrian explosion of functionality that can now be in software. Like where does the differentiation come from? I had such an interesting conversation with Diego Zax, who runs design at Ramp yesterday. And Ramp has done this like incredible job of incorporating AI into Ramp, where like we all use Ramp, but none of us have ever used Ramp's AI, and it's because it's so deeply embedded. And 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 his idea is like you should never notice that you're using AI. The software should just be really smart and great. And so he gave an example of that of like sort of like a smart software design. If you forward a receipt from your personal email to your work email and then from your work email to Ramp automatically responds to you and says like, "Hey, by the way, we've got your personal email now, so you can just send it straight to Ramp. Like we've got it." And so when you receive that email, you're like, wow, super smart, right? And it like feels like AI, but like it's just smart software design. And so I think there's still an aspect of craft, even if everyone has these capabilities and like functionalities, it's still like being close to your user, understanding their use case and like crafting great software for them. And I think that's still the differentiator. Like great user experiences will still win. And there's like a
That's a
10x
great
difference,
point.
100x difference.
And you mentioned about like this reasoning layer that each app could have, right? So let's say you're in Spotify, and you know it knows about a lot of stuff like where you are, what's time of the day, what you're up to, um, and it can suggest like, oh, this is what you want to listen. So it just works, right? So it has like this set of um, when do you know when the product just gets you? Like you're about to do something or something happens. Oh, that was smart.
Here's
So
here's
imagine
your
if
workout
oh,
playlist. You're at the gym, for
exactly,
example.
exactly, and like oh, you've taken, you know, I know you've taken this pre-workout stuff, so I'm gonna suggest like a more hardcore playlist. You know what I mean? So like something that really shapes to you personally. It's like now imagine if all products were like that, right? So you open you launch your OS, and you don't have to keep open stuff, all this minutia you have to do. So I think that's where a lot of the value is going to come from. And the thing is, I don't think it's obvious, right? So these are going to come in waves, because I was a person that was heavily skeptical of AI, but like recently I've been like, damn, this is really there is something there. So that's why I think there's this opportunity gap, right?
I think you're exactly right, and that's why like there's the importance of software engineers and software designers will be more than ever. Like I think with AI, we see that the cost of production is going down, and so we're like, wait, but we spend so much time producing, so we'll need less of us. But actually, as the cost of production goes down, we spend like the quality of all software will increase, and in order to compete, you have to get smarter and you have to get better than your competitors at anticipating your users, and it takes thought. So like product design and software development will become like thinking tasks. Like you have to think through the user's experience, not just like output, like put boxes on the screen, which is a lot of what it's like right now. And so like as everyone has these tools to create higher quality software, the best user experiences, the ones that win, are the teams where the engineers and designers had time to think through the user and what they need, anticipate it, and make like smarter software. So I think you're exactly right, and it's why I'm very, very optimistic about what it what it means for AI in the future of like builders. Awesome.
Right.
Thank you so much, both of you.
Thanks, Danny.